Hey guys, what's up? It's Jake and Joe, the Jake and Joe podcast. The first part of this is going to be heard on YouTube, so you're going to get to hear this on YouTube, some of it. And then if you guys want to hear the whole episode, just make sure you guys go over to Patreon. You guys can download the episode on Patreon on audio form to your phones, devices, save your data plan, all that stuff. Plus, you get the full episode. And, yeah, so go over there. But little tidbits of it, I'm sure, will be uploaded here or there to different places. And certainly we're on YouTube right now, and tonight's Monday Night Raw. So we're going to get the wrestling out of the way right now. So the people get to hear the wrestling right out of the way, right at the beginning. You know, if you're into, if you're listening on Patreon and you don't want to hear the wrestling, you know, we'll give you the timestamp to skip ahead down below in the description. So, but if you want to hear it all, why wouldn't you want to hear the whole goddamn thing anyway? But maybe you
absolutely want to hear the whole damn episode. Well, but yeah, you figure people coming to Joe Cronin Show want to hear about the wrestling news, and it is Monday. You know what that means. Legends Night, baby. Legends Night.
You know what?
Aren't you excited for Legends Night?
No, but you know what I was thinking was like, what I'm thinking about though, Jake, is the people that saw this on YouTube and then they were like, okay, I got to go to Patreon to hear the whole episode, and then they go over to Patreon, they're like, wait, oh no, like I heard this part already, you know?
Yeah,
but, yeah,
that's a smart move. So now you give them a timestamp, and
Alicia Fox is here. That whore Alicia Fox is here tonight, baby. Listen, everybody giving shit to, like, they gave shit to JD about, you know, making fun of her for not being a legend. First of all, I'm jealous. Second of all, she's not a legend. Listen, I don't think that... See, I think there's a difference, too, because these people are going to turn it into, like, the bullying thing again. They're going to do it again. Like, they're literally going to do it again.
Yeah, but it's not just her. There's a lot of names on this list that they're really being lenient with the word legend.
Right. So, like, I don't...
Even some bigger names, you know, I don't consider the Boogeyman to be a legend.
Yeah.
Cornette said the same thing, and he's a big, you know, friend of the Boogeymans, and he's like, I hope he doesn't take it as a personal hit against him, but he's certainly not a legend.
But see, that's the thing is, like, I don't like how people are white knight hijacking. Like, do you know what I mean? To, like, sort of be like, oh, and you son of a bitch.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah. How dare you attack, you know, Alicia Fox, you know? And it's like, it's not an attack. She's just not a legend. But I also don't think it needs to be beaten into the ground either, that she's not a legend, like, based, because at some point it is insult. Like, if you're just, like, screaming at her, it's not like, you're not a legend, not a legend. It's like, okay, yeah, we all know she's not a legend. We don't need to fucking tear her apart because they gave her some stupid label. That's not her fault. But at the same time, it's not a problem to be like, yeah, she's not a legend. And it's not a problem to be like, yeah, she's a legend, yeah, at the bar every month. You know, like, that's funny. I don't care if you think it's mean. Yeah, maybe it's mean, but you know what? It's not like he said it to her. And it's something that I thought, when they said it, that was the first thing I thought of. And then he said the joke too. So many people have said that joke, and so many people have come up with that.
They've done it on the air, you know? So
right. They made fun of it on the air. Yeah, and it's like, dude, nobody. I don't know her as a real person. I'm just going by the on-screen character and the little funny things. It's like when people make fun of me for stuff. It's like, yeah, so what? Like, big deal. Like it's not a big deal. You make fun of certain things that everybody knows, or you make fun of other people for their cats or whatever, because that's like a joke. You know,
well, one thing about Legends and Legends Night I want to kind of pick your brain about is, how do you feel? Is this Hulk Hogan being a bit of a bitch, or do you think that what he's saying is justified? He said that younger superstars aren't welcoming him when he comes back to Raw tonight and these types of shows. He said it's a mixed bag. Some people I get a really warm reception from, but most of the younger guys are very cold to me, like I'm coming to steal the main event. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore, guys. I'm not a threat.
I'm glad you read that, because I was going to say, Gina, here, my only problem with it is that he doesn't understand the reason they're cold to him. He thinks the reason they're cold to him is because he's taken their spot, and that's not the reason they're cold to him. They're cold to him because of his bizarre behavior in the past and the N-word thing and some other things. Like, that's the funny thing, is he doesn't even get it. He thinks it's because he's going to take a spot or whatever. And by the way, that's not even that far-fetched, because not that long ago he said he wanted to come back at WrestleMania. So it's like, maybe he does want to take a spot. So
exactly. And then on top of it, when he continues on, he's saying how, you know, going back with all the legends is going to be fun, but anytime I've been by myself, you know, he's basically saying it wasn't as good. And that Edge and Seth Rollins said to his face that they only got into this business was because of him. So he has to throw that in there. And then he said, the newer kids, I don't think they know who I am. They wake up and they really got me was with Stone Cold Steve Austin. We weren't really close at all, but over the last few years have become good friends. It caught me off guard when he called me one day and we were chatting about cars or something. And all of a sudden he goes, damn, Hogan, I was on the internet the other day and I can't believe all the stuff you did in your career. When Stone Cold didn't realize that I did The Love Boat and Johnny Carson, then I understood why the young people didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's I'm trying to think, man.
I mean, there's a lot of ego in there.
Yeah, I understand Hogan though, because from his point of view, I mean, the world doesn't really change, and it's
exactly.
But it even happens to me now. I'm 36, and it happens to me now, where I say something and then somebody's like, "What?" Or they don't know it, and you're like, "Oh my God!" Like I'm really I've reached that point where this whole generation doesn't understand. So at a certain point, you become pretty disconnected, from people, unless you're the one keeping up with the current trends. You have to start adapting to the current day and reminisce later. And that's always been something that's hard for me because but yet it's not, because I'm a young at heart type of person, I think. But at the same time, the things that I love and care about, I'm very old. Like I don't pick up new things really. You know what I mean? I stick to the old stuff I always listen to, and
that's what he blames it on. But as you already made comment to, and even this article here brings up the mention of it being his racist rhetoric in the past, and even his ability to dine and dash frequently. There's a lot of polarizing Hogan moments that people may not be a fan of him anymore because of. And I think that he either doesn't admit those faults of his or just puts them out of sight, out of mind, to the extent that he just feels, as he made his excuses to be, people just don't know him. That's why they're not in love with him.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to think.
He just can't view himself as the villain, is how it sounds to me. He can't see that I did some bad stuff. So he just says, oh, they just don't know who I am. That's why they're not big fans of mine. Because Seth and Edge, they're in the business because of what I did in history's time. They told me that to my face. But these newer kids, they barely know Stone Cold. So, of course, they don't know me. That's his excuse, instead of saying, well, I said some messed up stuff, and that might still affect my relationship with people.
Yeah, I don't think he understands that. Like, it's true that he isn't wrong, because a lot of even wrestlers like Sasha Banks, think about Sasha Banks. When she talks about her favorite wrestlers of all time, she talks about like Eddie Guerrero and things like that. And because really she started watching wrestling in the very late 90s. And there's a lot of people like that. It's like, dude, I started watching wrestling in the 80s. I was 5. And even other people who started watching in 91, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and Eddie has a storied career, but the stuff she refers to is like right before Eddie died, when he was the main event on SmackDown, holding the title and winning it at Mania. That's the Eddie Guerrero she speaks of, not WCW Cruiserweight Eddie or, Luchador Eddie, anything like that. So.
Yes, yeah. So it's like even Sasha Banks, who's now been in the WWE for 7 years, she doesn't know Hogan really.
She's referring to things 2004 or 5 onwards.
So it's also harder for those people, especially if you're African American, right? So you're an African American and you kind of like Hogan a little bit, sort of. You heard about him, but you also kind of heard he was a prick, and you really didn't watch a lot of Hogan anyway. You watched Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and maybe you caught the end of Stone Cold and you liked The Rock. And you've heard a little bit about Hogan. Obviously, he's like a legend and stuff like that. But you also heard he's a prick. And then, you hear the racist thing that happened or whatever, the racial comments. And now you're you just know the guy. You know too much about the guy that you don't care. So that's really what it is. I think Hogan, I'm sure he's tried maybe, but he needs to really give speeches in the backstage. I mean, I could do this, I think, pretty well, because I could convey my thoughts. But at the same time, I understand why he's very narcissistic. He's to himself a bit. And, I think I'm that way a little bit too, so I can see some of those traits where, people think you're an asshole and you really don't even realize that people think that, and you don't realize you're being an asshole, because I've done that, and I still do that because I'm just and my ADD is a big reason. But I think Hogan knows what he does a lot of times, and I don't really know exactly what the answer is. Now, if he's gone around and given speeches and talked to everybody and continued to give them, and he's still getting that cold reception, This is the first time he's sort of complaining about it, right? The last couple of years, Hulk Hogan has basically just taken it like, all right, like
he's popped up here and there to make his shoot comments, if you want to put it, and frame it that way. But yeah, he hasn't been overly vocal as he is now.
Yeah, and I think again, like
or at least vocal to a platform as large as an ESPN or anything like that. So
I think someone needs to explain that, like, man, it's because you're so out of touch with the style of these younger people. The younger people are all like, these people are all offended by everything. They don't like the old school in a way. They do, but they don't. And
WWE does screw over people. I mean, another story I was going to bring up is that Dave Meltzer was discussing earlier today how they just apparently moved Mickie James from an active wrestler to the Legends portion on their roster page. So they retired her seemingly overnight without any justification. And that means her last match was the one she had in September that ended with the referee calling the bell where it was like a botched finish. Remember the ref thought she was injured and she wasn't?
Maybe they were mad at her.
I don't know, but she's been trying to wrestle since then, and she had made some comments on social media, so I don't know if that got her in hot water. But
it's time to go to AEW. It's time to go to AEW.
Way, so.
Hey, listen, everybody who's listening on YouTube, I just want to also let you know that on Patreon, we're going to be talking about UFOs, the Marvel DC movies really quickly. There's a comment I think it's funny. Doctor Who, Trump's phone call, and
we got some questions too.
There's questions, and then there's a few other things that we have. So just letting you know, all that's going down on Patreon in a few minutes. So make sure you guys, if you want to listen to the whole show and you don't want to like be on here, jump over and listen to the whole podcast or download it on Patreon in the $5 or above category. Jake and Joe Podcast, patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. We're not done here though. And but real quick, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's a producer. $25 producer is going to be shouting you out all week. This portion of the show: Shell Bryan, Luis Antonio Alejandro, Yori ThaDon, Jman from KC, Colonel Stutters, Jerome Spicer, Kevin Murphy. Thank you guys, and Firebird 87. What else you got, Jake? I'm sorry. With the wrestling West tonight's Raw, plenty of shit.
Big Show still wants the match against Shaq in WWE. He's still pushing for this to happen, and I'm like, do they not realize that? Wow. Everything that's going on with AEW, but of course they do, so that's why he's pushing for this to happen. I don't want to see Shaq in either AEW or WWE.
Hey,
I have no interest in that. So.
Did you happen to hear Sasha Banks' new music the other night? Because I couldn't make it out. I missed it.
No, I didn't catch it.
I wish they'd just go back to her original song.
Because I know they got rid of the Snoop Dogg portion, but I didn't hear it. And that's with them being frustrated with him going to AEW this week. So,
man, I got to tell you that. I mean,
they're treating it like an outright betrayal. I mean, you see, just even like the certain usual people that go to wrestling shows. Yeah, they said that they used to keep in touch with people. Now they don't even hear from them because they started going to AEW shows. So not necessarily green shirt guy, but people like that you used to see on live TV all the time that you would recognize.
Yeah.
Once they started going to both Raw and Dynamite, they stopped receiving invites and correspondence from WWE.
Wow.
And the superstars wouldn't talk to them either anymore. They used to be friends with several of the wrestlers, and the wrestlers weren't even talking to them.
I'm trying to relate this to YouTube because I'm not. I've done this before, I've seen, like somebody maybe who used to be on a show or something like that would shit on me, and then they'd like really bury me, or they'd say something personally fucked up, and then somebody like who would be on once in a while would be over there like laughing on the thing with it, and the other person's being kind of malicious, but the other person, the person who calls isn't, and I go, well, I'm not going to have that person on again. It's like,
yeah.
But it's like, so I get it. Like, I get it. But it's just weird to me that, like, billion-dollar companies are doing this because...
Yeah, that they're that petty.
A fan is like, I mean, like, it's not like they personally know that... it's like I know people personally, and then somebody doesn't defend something that's wrong. So that's, like, irritating. But it's like, what? That you don't...
Yeah.
The green shirt guy in the front. Well, fuck that guy anyway. I hate that guy.
Yeah, I don't know if it was him. Like I said, I was just saying that's the first that came to mind. But, people like that, I've even spoken to a couple on Twitter, and they said that, we just lost correspondence entirely once we were seen on Dynamite or I think it was Revolution. Whatever pay-per-view was still, that was Revolution.
So is Adam Cole going to be in trouble for taking the Brody Lee Jr. Super kicks or whatever?
I don't believe so. I think that they're pretty lax about anything that had to do with Brody Lee. That tribute night with them yelling about Eric Rowan, and you hear Ross Redbeard, they're trying to get that over, and saying WWE at one point, different things like that. They're not being nitpicky at all over the Brody Lee stuff. That would be horrific optics. That would be so bad if WWE was being, getting lawyers involved for any of that stuff with the Brody Lee tribute. I think that would be a nightmare scenario.
Do you know what today is? Do you know what today is?
It's Monday. You know what that means?
No. That's gonna get old real quick. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. Everyone wants them to start it off every show like that. I don't think that's a ideal thing. I think they should just leave it as having it a tribute for that tribute night.
Like said, that's an interesting. Yeah, that's different because that's like sort of a WWE thing, like where Vince loves to drill in a catchphrase, and I compare this to myself. What's Up Wrestling Fans is my drill in catchphrase. So it's like, I can't say it's a marketing thing, and it's a thing. It works, and it's a real. And to say like it's Wednesday, you know what that means? Dynamite. That's not bad because that's a real slogan that you could say. Vince McMahon's Raw one is fucking stupid. It's like he went from, back in the day, Vince McMahon, welcome to Monday Night Raw. So then Vince makes Drew McIntyre go out there and say it. He makes Seth Rollins go out there and say it when they're champions on Raw. And there's no authority figure and there's no Vince McMahon to stand there in 1994 and yell, welcome to Monday Night Raw. They've got no one to say that. We don't have that
same energy and excitement.
So they have Drew McIntyre say it, but he's the champion. So he's really not talking like Drew McIntyre. He's being the spokesperson for WWE, which is why that's why it falls flat with his title reign, because people know he's not being genuine. Welcome to Monday Night Raw. Like he says
that's what killed Seth Rollins. And then,
yes.
Well, that's part of what killed Seth. And then Seth also went on the deep end on Twitter, but.
Well, let's welcome to Monday Night Raw. Like it was like, it's like, oh my God, Vince made you say that. No, do you know what today is though? I got to tell you.
No, what's today?
22 years ago, Mick Foley won the WWE World Heavyweight title.
Oh, that's right.
In Worcester, Massachusetts. I was there.
One of my favorite episodes of Raw.
The building was shaking. I know
it's yours as well. Go figure. But from the Shawn stuff in the beginning and getting attacked, and the whole night was just perfect.
The best thing
ending
is
with the Foley stuff.
The best thing is WWE just tweeted this out, and the picture of Foley raising the title belt up in the air, like screaming. But in the top right corner of the GIF that they put up there, there's a guy in a DX shirt going to the bathroom, or leaving the arena, trying to get out of there quickly in the Worcester Centrum, or Worcester. What's it called now? Fuck, the DCU Center. He's walking up the ramp to leave. He's got a 69 shirt on. It's just really funny. I don't know. He's walking up the ramp like with his beer and his tight blue jeans from the 90s.
You were at that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought.
Do you remember where we sat? Do you remember at SmackDown when we at Mohegan Sun where we sat under the sign and we were like, we're gonna, if the sign falls for WrestleMania, we're dead. Like, dude,
yeah. And everything was massive. It just gets bigger every year,
dude. I think that all the time at like sports games when I'm at a hockey game or whatever, especially wrestling,
under one of those Tron screens. Or
you're like, dude, if that fucking, I think that happens in Face Off, if I remember that movie Face Off. But yeah, it doesn't happen at hockey because you're around the boards. Like if it falls, it'll kill the hockey players. But at
there's a movie with Paul Walker where there's an awesome ice rink scene. And I think it's called Running Scared.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that, but I know what you're talking about.
But I remember something heinous happening in an ice rink like that. But yeah,
that's funny, man. Like but that arena, for people that don't know, like Mohegan Sun is really small. DCU Center is bigger.
Yeah, the Worcester one isn't much bigger though.
No, it's not much bigger, but
it's still pretty small.
The big reason why Worcester's big is because it goes higher, but it's close. You're close to the ring, you're close to everything, and it's more of a bowl.
If you have like vertigo problems, you do not want to sit in any of that upper bowl area. I'll tell you that much, because it's steep.
Oh my God, yeah.
It is very, very steep. And the New Haven Coliseum was like that too. The higher up you went,
Mm-hmm.
because they really had that full-on stadium-style seating where you were like overlapping heads.
Now they tore that down, right?
Yeah, they
I remember when they
demolished
tore that down.
I went to the last show there, which was a WWF show, and they did a whole big tribute thing. It was great.
I only went there one time, but I know the place.
Yeah, because they treated that like their home away from home. Like MSG was their official home, but this was their actual home. Like when they needed to test matches or TV stuff or anything like that, they went to the New Haven Coliseum to do all that because it was right next to the headquarters.
Yeah, this was a different. This was their backyard home. Like
yeah, exactly. So you could just set up things there.
All of the Northeast was their home, man. Like it was so big. Like they were like when you look at the dates, even in the 90s. They did this because they had such a good following in the Northeast, but when you look at the dates, it's crazy, dude. Like during the Triple H Mankind era, like of Shawn Michaels, Triple H Mankind, Stone Cold, 1997, 1998, DX time. The dates are amazing. Like Springfield, Massachusetts, Lowell, Massachusetts, like New Haven, Connecticut, Worcester, Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts. Hartford,
Springfield got a lot,
and yeah, Springfield, Mass was huge. Like, but also,
I saw a few Raws in Springfield,
Manchester, New Hampshire, a bunch. They went to Maine. It's kind of incredible. The only state that always gets left out, unfortunately for them, is because there's no one there, is Vermont. But everybody else gets seen. New York and all of New England and New York, and of course,
because they even went to Maine at one point.
Yeah, they go to Maine. But they don't go to. They don't go to Vermont, really. There's nothing in Vermont, and maybe they did, and I don't know about it. They went like once or something like that, or once every couple of years. But, back then in the 90s, it was just every second they were in Massachusetts. There's so many Raws and iconic Raws, if you go back and look, and they're in Massachusetts. And they're not just in, and the funny thing is they're not in Boston, and they're not in Worcester, even in some of them. They're in like fucking Springfield, or they're in Lowell. Dude, the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. The DX where Shawn Michaels and Triple H took their pants off and they had like the little Christmas Santa outfits on their dicks or whatever it was. That was, I think, the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, which me and Connor from OKFabe have been to a couple times together. And dude, this place is like it's like the NXT arena. So the little NXT, whatever it's called.
CWC.
It's just like that. It's exactly like that. And it's like they filmed a Raw there. Like, it's just funny. They had the camera a certain way, but it was very small. Like it's like the ECW arena. So it's very funny to go back and look at those. And partially all that stuff was done because of the logistics of what happened the years before. So the reason why they're booked at all these small places, when you're like, why are they booked at all these small places when the business is rising and killing it? And it's because business was dead in 1995 and in 1996. So when they planned out so when they planned out their travel schedule for 1997 and even 1998, they had already booked these places and they had started to catch fire. I'm sure if they could have planned it better, I mean, it worked out better because the crowd was so hyped and it was the most furious people there, and a lot of scalpers made a lot of money and shit.
Oh yeah.
But they I'm sure they would have loved to go back in time and replace a few dates, and I'm sure they did try to replace a few dates where it was like, dude, Jesus Christ, get us out of the Lowell Memorial Auditorium and let's go to Worcester. Is fucking
get us to the Garden, get us to because you think about now, they would tarp off sections before admitting that they wanted to go somewhere smaller. That's why they liked going to Mohegan Sun and things like that, because they could sell that out pretty consistently.
Yeah, they could sell it out.
A lot of times they gave away tickets just because they get that comp system through the casino.
It's right near the office. Man, I loved Mohegan Sun, man. That's a memory I'll never forget. It breaks my heart that Road Dogg blocked me, because one of his last things he does before he leaves Twitter is blocks me on Twitter. But man, if the Road Dogg ever listens, he really made my life so fun for those couple of years where he was helping us out and all that other stuff. And
unbelievable.
Man, it was really a fun time. I'll never forget those 2 years, man. That was like the year when it's like I felt like I was following WWE around. Like I got to go to the shows, people recognize me. I felt like it felt nice to see people.
I got to talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, it really, like, to meet people in real life. That is so weird now because even before COVID, I'd sort of become a little more like in-house, and I was getting ready to leave and start going out and venturing out to do things again. And then COVID happened. And, now it's been about 3 to 4 years since I've really, been out. And I miss going out and meeting people, saying hi to people, just experiencing life. And
yeah, we had plans for SummerSlam this year.
Oh, my God, dude. Great. Fucking SummerSlam would have been killer. Any other wrestling stuff, Jake, before?
Yeah, Charlotte Flair had her day of special, focusing on her mindset. And they should not have released this or edited something because this is not a good look for her. Everybody thought, at least we were told, she went on this long hiatus for the past few months because she needed surgery. She had the issue with her implants and whatnot becoming, problematic. And so no one really gave her a hard time. And now she was running rampant. She won the title over Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. She'd never lost, to lose the title, as she allowed, she didn't do anybody any services. She didn't put anybody over. So she wasn't really, in a great stance at that point in time, but still she was the champion for NXT for all those months, working on all the different brands. And so she says herself that she felt like she needed a break because she was at a standstill. She said, I felt like hard times for the company as talent, as individuals, but I need to go home. If I'm not going to do this now, I'm never going to do it. When I left, I felt so deflated, and it's not because I wasn't or didn't feel creative. I just felt like I was at a standstill. I was working NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. I felt like I was doing the best work of my career, but I was not moving forward. I felt like, well, am I letting the company down because I'm leaving? I've always been there, regardless of how the fans view me as good or bad. So the last 6 months, I just tried to think about when I do return, what does that look like, and what do I want to, because I have done it all.
Wow.
That's a horrible stance from her. So basically she says, I've done it all.
Jesus.
So what can I do when I come back that's going to move me forward? And now she comes back to win the women's tag titles with Asuka.
Man.
So it's like so self-serving. She's like, even though I'm being used by creative, she's like, I didn't feel like I wasn't being used by creative. She even admits that. Jesus. She just says that she wasn't being propelled forward. You were the NXT Women's Champion. You had a headlining match on WrestleMania. You went ahead and was on 3 different brands worth of shows, constantly shoved down people's throat. You were the focus on most of those shows throughout that point in time. What does she want?
They really need to move her away from that sterile promo of hers and move her into like being just like the most savage person. Like I'm talking about like slapping people and telling she's gonna hurt them. She needs to become this just crazy Amazon, like thirsty, like the Eddie Kingston Charlotte. Like she'll never be that, but you know what I mean? Like get her out of that.
She needs to be, because this isn't working. People aren't buying into her now because it feels so not genuine. It just feels robotic, and they make fun of her being robotic. Nia Jax makes a comment and they have to bring light to it. I'm like, my God, don't do that, because that's terrible. But this whole
that's just weird, because that's literally a real criticism and a problem, and then they literally brought it up, and it was
exactly. They're bringing attention to a real issue, which means they know it's an issue.
Yeah,
Someone
and then they don't
behind the scenes to write that in the script. So it's not just us making this criticism; it's known in creative as well.
Do you know what you do with something like that? If you want to use that, you go, you're whatever, you're a robot, and then what happens next needs to be that she does something horrifically crazy, and it's like, yeah, who's the robot now, bitch? Like, who's the fucking robot now? You want to see a robot?
We got a verbal robotic response.
Yeah. Yeah, like I would have.
But she says it at the end there. I tried to think about my return and what does that look like and what do I want to do, because I have done it all. So the one thing she didn't do, she wasn't, the tag champ yet. So let me get those titles. That's what it comes down to.
Didn't she say that about something else the last time she came back too?
She could have. I don't recall.
Swear to God, she goes that. It's like, stop talking like this. I don't know. Whatever. She's just sucks.
Adding championships to her reign.
I like her in matches, though. I like when you book like her and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, she's a good wrestler. She's impressive at times, but her attitude sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what it
And
is.
this was bad of them to release because it just makes her look even worse. And then Bushwhacker Luke has been criticizing a lot of the main WWE roster because they have zero character.
Yes.
He's spot on. He said, there's one thing, maybe piss some people off is the characters. There are no characters there today. And Vince is building them now. He started to build a few characters there, but in the end of the classic days of the 80s and early 90s, we were all characters and we all stood out. I saw sometimes, imagine if we had merchandise heavy out today, like the new guys have today, that would be making a fortune, and he's absolutely right. If they had all the merchandise today that they did, or back then that they do today, those guys would have been millionaires.
And it's not even that there's no characters, it's that there's no good personalities. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's in line with characters is what he's getting at.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Like you don't have to have
no one's unique. They're all wrestler that I was influenced by, say wrestler's name here as I watched them when I was a kid, and I always wanted to be the champion at WrestleMania, and that's every face on our roster,
right?
And every heel is no one respects me, and the fans boo me because they don't understand me, and that's it,
right?
It's every heel.
Look at Eddie Kingston in AEW. That's why he works so well. Number one, he's so good on the mic.
He feels like a real person with real gripes who talks about how he had to sell his wrestling gear because he couldn't afford to eat during COVID and provide for his family. And then AEW gave him a shot, but that's why this is so important to him. And, oh my God, his motivations are there. There's passion.
Yeah, he's not going like, what I always wanted to be, I always wanted to be, Bruiser Brody, or I always wanted to be, Jack Mulligan, and I grew up watching Jack Mulligan, and that's what I wanted to be. And then they start crying, like, I met Jack Mulligan. God, Magnum TA was my favorite, and then he got hurt, and that broke my heart as a kid. Like, he doesn't, like, and then I met him, and I can't wait to meet him again. The more than fucking 10 seconds on that, you start looking at the person as a fan and not as a personality, a wrestler, or something important. Their stock starts diminishing because they're now putting over this other person or whatever. It happens every time. Sasha Banks, it's like, I get it. Like, if she's wrestling, and you know what I like is when she's wrestling, if she was wearing something for Eddie Guerrero and she's wrestling or whatever, and then the commentator goes, people may not realize it, but Sasha Banks wearing the blah blah blah, it's a tribute to Eddie. If that's all it was, if they said that, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool, But because I've heard Sasha a million times like tear up over Eddie, like constantly, and say how much she loves him, and it's cringy.
It's a failure of a creative idea now.
Yeah, imagine if Ric Flair, back when he was Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. Around that time, like there was videos just months ago before that of him crying over the fact that he was like, I love the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, or whatever the hell. Like it was just like, it's just like, what? Like, this is weird. But at least even they would get away with it a little more because they had such a boisterous personality that they could bulldoze right into their shit because they had such personality and just a boisterous charisma. Where, Sasha Banks, I think, had her best time was NXT when she was a heel. She had the best charisma, best in-ring stuff. That was the best Sasha Banks.
Because you believed her. And that was what was important.
And I didn't know about all that Eddie shit back then either.
Or the Snoop Dogg shit.
Right. Snoop Dogg, Eddie, didn't know. And that makes perfect sense.
And last thing I want to bring up is that there is a bit of an update. I don't know if you want to call it that, but a little bit more information about Brody Lee and John's last time. I guess what had happened is that both of his lungs, for whatever issue he had, they became so bad is that it ended up being double lung failure, and they were in such a poor state of health that he couldn't qualify for a transplant. And according to Jim Ross, he said that he doesn't know if this is totally accurate or not, but the last day of his living, they went ahead, they took him off of the life support machines to see if he could actually breathe on his own. That was the only last chance he had to see if, he could fight for himself. And unfortunately it didn't work. So, that led to his passing, and it was sad times for all, obviously. But now, at least we kind of found out a little bit more. That's why he didn't qualify for a lung transplant. And, they did all they could, but unfortunately, it just wasn't something that could be reversed or fixed.
I looked up. I actually looked it up the other day. I looked up double lung failure because I was like, "What the fuck is double lung failure?" And this may be something that they figure out later. I mean, maybe the family knows, has an idea, but when you look up double lung failure, there's all kinds of things from. Actually, I lost it now. Hold on, what causes? I spent some time looking it up the other day. Oh, here it is. Double lung failure. A virus or bacteria or fungus causes tiny sacs in the lungs. But there can also be an opioid thing. There can be a injury that happens.
Because opioids suppress your breathing, so if he was ever on pain medicine, that could have caused an issue.
So pain medicine was I thought about that because I'm like, a lot of wrestlers are on pain medicine, so this has actually been linked to that. So I don't know. There was other things on there though. Injury, a bacterial infection.
It could be an infection that you get. People have gotten
pneumonia
and died from actual lung failure because of a sliver in their foot. It was on one of those like odd medical case shows, and it was crazy. But the guy got a wood splinter in his foot, and it got infected, and that infection traveled up his veins and into his lungs, and went ahead and killed him very quickly. Put him almost immediately into lung failure.
That's insane.
But that anything can happen. It's just JR said he wasn't sure about an autopsy, but I'm sure that we'll get more details as time goes on. Demanding it,
Yeah, no one should. Yeah, I mean, we want to know, but I mean, whenever they get to it, whatever, we can wait. But
and funny thing is, former WWE referee Jimmy Corderas actually was talking about how he's very worried that the superstars will be, overdone and overshadowed by the legends tonight. Yeah, and I can't really, disagree with him there. He says, I know the idea is to get some of these legends to put over the current talent. In some regard, they can't do it physically, but maybe they can do it with their words. It's just going to be a little bit of a challenge to do the balance between former superstars and current stars. And WWE does not know how to balance that out anytime ever. It literally turns into, sadly, and we see it time and time again, Vince making sure the legends get put over, not the new talent. I mean, look what they did to the Revival. That's the one that stands out most recently to me. We do know, however, that Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, Beth Phoenix, Tori Wilson, Big Show, Jacqueline, Booker T, Sergeant Slaughter, Tatanka, Jeff Jarrett, Jimmy Hart, Ivory, Carlito, The Boogeyman, Melina, Mark Henry, Alicia Fox, Teddy Long, Eve Torres, and several others will be there. We have to find out if Randy Orton really burned Alexa Bliss alive. I mean, that's the problem with cliffhanger endings as well. We don't know exactly what happened. Did he burn her or not? And I know that's what they want us to wait on. But issue is, unlike watching a regular episodic TV show, time moves on. Things keep happening. They've since had NXT and SmackDown. They had Raw talk in the background with a burn mark on the ring. So something clearly happened. We're not going to come back to see Randy still standing there holding matches. 7 days have passed. So instead, the way they do these type of cliffhangers just falls flat because it's very difficult to be consistent. How no referees or staff or anyone would run out. You could argue with the Fiend one that it was essentially an Inferno match. Randy went too far, but the Fiend had agreed to be set on fire to participate in the match at all. Both men had, so that was on them. But Alexa's an innocent bystander, and Randy Orton's attempting to set her on fire, even though she wants it. You figure someone from the back would run out and say, "Hey, this shit needs to stop." So that's what makes it not believable. The little cliffhanger that they tried to end 2020 on was a sour note, and I hope they do something bigger with it. One thing we do have to look forward to tonight is the WWE title match between Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee. Keith Lee beat Sheamus last week to become the number one contender for tonight's show. I'm imagining that Sheamus will get involved somehow and cause a disqualification, and we'll get a triple threat from these guys at the Royal Rumble. But if anything, Drew will go over clean. If not, but I'm really picturing that Sheamus is going to be the one to go ahead and get involved. I can't foresee them not, going ahead and do that. And then WWE has put out a bit of an interesting video today for List This, and they're making predictions on who will be champions coming up in the future this year. So Peyton Royce is one of the ones they predict. Dominic Mysterio is another. They also say that Kyle O'Reilly will be champion, Bianca Belair, and of course Matt Riddle. And that kind of goes into my next little story that I was going to tell before we close out this portion of the podcast, that Matt Hardy is saying that the Hardy Bros is basically the same as fake Razor and fake Diesel. We have the Hardy Boys with Matt and Jeff, the infamous and famous tag team that have been around the world and champions in multi wrestling companies. And, they're known worldwide for the crazy stunts that they've pulled off all over the world. Now, even though Jeff is still in WWE, Matt's still, making a name for himself in AEW. Now, Jeff's been combined with Mr. Matt Riddle. They got rid of the Matt name so it wouldn't be too similar, but they're being called the Hardy Bros instead of the Hardy Boys. It's obviously a play on the name that was previously made famous with the other brother. And it's hilarious, but this is Matt's latest quote. He said, Vince McMahon is so obsessed with the greatness and popularity and the success of the Hardy Boys that he's created the Hardy Bros. He's put together another guy named Matt with my brother Jeff to try and recreate the magic that we once had. He's trying to confuse the marketplace because he so wishes he still had the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Bros with Jeff and Matt Riddle, that's not going to work. You've had a better chance with a fake Razor and fake Diesel. That honestly just cracks me up. And, I'm glad Matt kind of stood up for himself there. Good on him for that much. I certainly, I've made the comparison myself recently, and, we'll see what happens going further. So I'm trying to see if they have anything else for tonight for Raw's preview. No, they mentioned what's next for Randy Orton and Alexa, Drew's match, and then the fact that Legends Night is here. They haven't previewed any other matches. Nothing. I'm surprised. I figured, usually by now they start to trickle out some more details and let us know things in the meantime. But another piece of news is that AEW is actually leaving Daly's place. According to Bodyslam.net, AEW is making plans outside of Jacksonville for February. They will tape their Revolution pay-per-view in Miami as well. This is also being reportedly done to change location to help boost morale for everybody. They're tired of going to Daly's place so consistently. It says here the AEW will record several weeks of Dynamites and Dark tapings and their upcoming Revolution pay-per-view in Miami before returning to Jacksonville in March. Plus, it was noted that a change of scenery would be good for everyone's morale. So they are set to return to Daly's place in March. But like I said, I think, change of scenery will be nice for everybody, give some people a break, and we'll see what's going on going further. Also, Mandy Rose is going to be deposed in Sonya Deville's stalker trial. So PW Insider said that Mandy's scheduled to be in court to testify on February 3rd at 1 p.m. At this time, Sonya Deville is slated to give a video testimony via Zoom on February 13th at 2:30 p.m. Police officers who responded to the call at Sonya Deville's home will be on the stand on February 18th, and Philip A. Thomas will also take the stand himself on February 25th. The trial will go on while Sonya Deville is getting back into the WWE in her storyline. And, her return was certainly a shock to everyone backstage. Apparently, according to Ringside News and a few others, so take it with a grain of salt, only a few people actually knew about it. They kept it under wraps. And I still don't quite understand why they had Deville return if they don't have a plan for her. We've heard that, they kept her backstage a reappearance under wraps and nobody knew about her returning. With Sonya Deville being back, what are they going to do with her reinstatement? And that's just the thing. They said that she's reinstated. So
they had no other story like she's been signed again or anything.
Yeah,
it's just
nothing.
reinstated. You can get fired. So whenever anybody puts their career on the line again, it's just like, that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You completely killed that gimmick entirely.
Why not have her be invited back and where they want maybe anything, dude? Maybe even put her in the ring with goddamn Vince McMahon, who's a lot of people think that you're going to be, they're upset that you got fired and want to sign you back to a new contract. Maybe they could even do a storyline where they like sign her for peanuts and she's desperate, or maybe they could even do a deal where they sign her for more money because they realized that like her segments were high rated. Like they could even just make that up and say that, like you're really high rated segments, you know, one of the best women. And then you could have another, basically just put her over that, like, you know, with all you've been through too, you know what I mean? You were going through a tough time, you know, there's some crazy people out in the world, and
or have Mandy Rose be the one that can reinstate her.
I'd have a heel attack her. Just have a heel come out and be like, yeah, why does she get to come back here? You know, I deserve a title match, and you're hiring back people who are losers. And that right there, you go right into a program with somebody, and that's it. And that's better than just she's been reinstated.
The stipulation of the match intact. Just say that the bylaw of it is that, you know, the only escape clause is that the only person that can bring you back is the person that got you fired. And Sonya would apologize to Mandy or something, or they can have another match since they had a pretty damn good match to begin with. And then she gets reinstated, you know, that kind of thing. Play off of it. Get some type of payoff. Don't just have her walking backstage.
Wouldn't it be funny if she just came back, attacked somebody, and they just said, that's Sonya Deville, she's here. And then she was in that was it, and they didn't say anything about reinstating.
That would have been better.
That might have been better,
She's attacking people, and then they say, well, Christ, we don't want you attacking anybody. And you also know how to get in here. They keep sneaking in. What do we do? And your security sucks here. Since we know that, you know,
the cringe,
the retribution angle with her,
the cringe of her walking down the tunnel without everybody looking at her, like, oh my god, like, oh, like that was so wicked cringy. Like I was like, wow, this is just like she's The Rock or somebody returning or something like that. It's like you could have, I don't know, man. It was just that was really
There's so much more they could have done.
That was super nerdy.
Before we get off the YouTube thing as well, WWE just posted a video honor the legacy of, you know, Luke Harper, John Huber, and I think that's great. It's an 11-minute video, so there's certainly a lot of testimonials. Drew McIntyre, Daniel Bryan, Big E, Cesaro, and it features many more about their friendship, and they pay tribute to him. So they just put that out on their YouTube channel right now. So I'll have to check that out before Raw. But good on WWE to keep putting out stuff to remember, you know, Luke Harper.
A big other thing, they just WWE Creative just put out that they hired their new lead, whatever the hell it is. New lead creative. I actually commented on it. I said, please hire me. Her name is Christine Lebrano, and Senior Vice President, Creative Writing Operations. WWE is excited to welcome our new creative writing. And she looks like an SJW person or something like that. She doesn't really look like an SJW person. She just looks like a female who's a business person. So that's not good. And that probably, I don't know.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, like, that's what we need. Like,
see what happens.
Probably going to be bad.
And I feel like a bad wrestling fan because I've yet to see Wrestle Kingdom 15 at all. But have you seen any of it yet?
I saw clips and I saw 2 matches the other day. I mean, early this morning, really, is what it is. And it's really, I mean, it's really good. The biggest complaint that's coming out of everybody and what I saw a little bit of was definitely that there's just kick out central, which I think the funny thing, but really it's nothing that different than what we know about what we're going to get. So I'm not that baffled. I think there might be some new people tuning in that are baffled a bit. But it's like the one thing I'm seeing is that people are excited that these guys definitely sort of sell a little more like the old school types that we're used to. So there's a little more selling, but then there's on top of that, there's a little more stiffness, right? Because they're hard, strong style, whatever they call it. It's very stiff, strong style, but people also sell really pretty well. And then at the same time, there's just kick out after kick out after kick out. And so people are like, that there is a little too much of it because it's watering down what happens later on. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely worth a watch. It's interesting to see people. But that was the biggest thing, was seeing people. It was like I was feeling like, am I watching a clip of something that's old? You know, I kept feeling that feeling of this isn't right now. I'm watching like an older thing, like, or something. So it was weird to see that. But no, I still got to go back and watch a lot of it because, you know, I really missed it. I saw, what's his name? God damn it. Oh, God, I forget the name now. There was a great match that I did see early on, and I'm trying to figure out now what it was. Oh, man. I don't know. But Ibushi and Naito, I mean, you gotta see that. I mean, obviously, like, dude, I mean, I don't know who would miss this. At this point, I feel like, anybody who wants to watch a good match in front of fans and shit like that, like, you're gonna want to check this out, man. You're gonna want to check it out. It's definitely cool. There's night 2s coming up. But yeah, unfortunately, I saw like bits and pieces of everything chopped up, and I didn't see any complete really match. I want to say that oh god, it was, I'm trying to remember the name. Dude, there was an Avalanche Frankensteiner that was insane in one of the matches. It was like
I'm sure on Twitter too. I'll have to check that out.
Go look on Twitter at New Japan World if you guys want. They're tweeting all kinds of stuff. I mean, there was some crazy stuff. Basically, and I would say too, if you like the Young Bucks, but you also like that strong style mixed in, then that's basically what this is an all-out just insanity. Like, people are going wild. Tonga's out there fucking beating the shit out of people. Tama Tonga, and he looked like he took a shot, man, and he was kind of in like a multi-man situation, and he took a shot, bro. Like, I mean, there's some stiff shots out there and some wild stuff that was being done. So definitely want to check it out. I think it's the one of the biggest things too about New Japan that I love still to this day is the camera work. It's so much better, than WWE. Like, when you see a suplex, you get to see kind of a wide shot of the suplex, and it looks great. Where in WWE, they zoom in way too much on stuff. And the camera work in WWE is piss. Like, it's so bad in WWE. They overproduce it so bad that you don't really understand the impact of the wrestling. So WWE's biggest issues, besides creative writing and the promo things and whatever they do, like, they also have a problem because their cinematography and their visuals and directing are terrible now, which is weird because they used to be a standard. But New Japan is so much better looking. AEW is better looking too, but even AEW misses things, and they almost try to be a little WWE-like with some things, but they're better than WWE, AEW is. But, man, New Japan, this stuff looks amazing. Their camera work and decision-making on their shots are possibly number one. There's some times where I wish they had some shots a little different, but man, they're gold as far as that goes. Anyway, that's about it, man. Jon Moxley cut a promo. So I don't care who's going to face me for the United States title, bring it on, blah, blah, blah. So that's a promo that the Moxley cut. So that title's going to be on the line soon. And that's really about it, man. Check out Wrestle Kingdom. I still have to watch 70% of it. And Kenta did a Finn Balor tribute. He did the double foot stomp from the top rope. Finn Balor style. And yeah, that's it.
Certainly sounds like a hell of a show. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it, to be honest. And it's too bad I didn't watch it live because, there was one match, dude, there was just so many tombstones, but there was a really cool tombstone on the outside of the ring. So you should check that out. I mean, just check it out, man. I mean, there are so many great moments, but man, I'll tell you, man, there is some crazy shit. Okada, I think it's Okada with I think it was his match where I saw that tombstone on the outside of the ring, but I was waking up in and out of it just like before. I was like waking up watching it, cool, and then like falling asleep. Like the minute a match ended or there was a pause or anything, I fucking fell asleep again. All right, guys, listen, we're gonna go over to the YouTube, the Patreon side of things. So come on over there, and hope you guys enjoyed this. We just did almost an hour on wrestling on YouTube, so you're welcome. 2 hours are available for you though over on Patreon. So continue to listen to us talk about other things besides wrestling on Patreon. And if you're not a patron, get on over and help support the show. Patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. We're almost at 300 patrons again. We could definitely use you over there. And you get all this extra content. So please check out Patreon. Download it on your phone, whatever you got to do. And we'll see you over there right now for the rest of this. And so at about the 55-minute mark over there, you can fast forward to the 55-minute mark, and you'll be caught up back to where we left off. Okay, we'll cut it there. And are you good to go, or do you need to get out of here?
Good.
You're okay?
I'm good to go.
Okay, because like we went really long for that. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I don't think we'll go too crazy because, you know, we did go really long on that. So we'll kind of just, I guess, do this sort of rundown of things.
Yeah, I got bits here that we can definitely talk about. That was on your list. And
now, this is just kind of breaking to me now. I didn't know about this. Have you heard that this Trump call? Because I heard the Trump call thing, and he kind of sounds like a weird salesman bully.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing that it's edited now. That the Trump.
Well, they released